I see a live button, so we're supposed to wait 30 seconds after live. Is that true?
Good enough. We can say the pledge. Have that.
Okay. Well, let's call this meeting to order. This is the April 12th meeting of the Calvert City Council. This is the first time in quite a while that we have been present together in chambers. The public is not here with us, so we're being broadcast on YouTube, and we have some members of our various partners are available to come on the Zoom meeting. And with that, since we are in council chambers, Tanera is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America,
States, to the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
All right. Wasn't nice. Okay, we are in session and set a pledge. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes for the last meeting, which was March the 8th?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the March 8th meeting minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Have a second?
Second.
Okay, Nita seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consider the meeting minutes approved. Now, we have a special visitor tonight. We have the winner of the youth writing contest. So Blair, would you like to do the honors? And let me interrupt here. Can you hear okay out there? Can everybody hear? Blair?
Yep, I can hear.
I see thumbs up. That's good. Okay, so
Today we have Haley McPherson here. She is April's Youth Voice Writing Contest winner. And Haley, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and about the song that you wrote?
There you are. You're unmuted. You're unmuted. You can tell them about yourself.
I go to Central Elementary. I am in 4th grade.
What do you like to do, Haley? What do you do for fun?
I like to do art, and I like to go outside.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about your song that you wrote? Did it just come to you?
Yeah, I just wanted to write a song, and my mom told me that there was this contest, so I thought that I would submit in it, and I
And you won.
Hey.
hey,
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
thank you for having me.
thank you for coming.
Thank you all very much. She's very, very shy, so this was a lot for her. But she is very thankful and very excited, even though you can't see it on her face. Thank you.
Yeah. I read through the song today. It was pretty cool.
Can you sing
Well,
it
I mean, it's a
for
pretty
us?
cool period, I
Yeah,
thought. So I want to hear the music part of it. Okay, moving on past that to old business. And the first piece of old business, I think I'm going to jag in here with something that's not clearly explicit on the agenda, is City Hall is open to business, okay? Now the front doors are locked. But if anybody in the citizenry have any kind of issue that they want to talk to City Hall about, They can call the number. People are here during normal work hours. I'm being told and have witnessed that door opens many times during the day. Okay, so we do have people down here. Now, we don't have people wandering in and out like we might have on some occasions, but City Hall's open for business, and they have been for a number of weeks. And I just want to make that clear to folks who may be watching that City Hall is open. We're looking forward to some relaxation of some of the rules and restrictions. And hopefully we can, become open for that. But rest assured, if anybody's got any issue that they want to talk to the city about, the phones are being answered, the water departments are being answered off hour. So the city is very much in function. And the work to stay on top of the grass, for instance, has already begun. So with that said, that little gentle reminder, John, are you ready to talk to or about some HDR engineering for stormwater?
I am, sir.
Okay.
I had a conversation with Matt Browley, who is our PE from HDR, and he was giving us a more in-depth estimate on the cost to do some preliminary work for the stormwater drainage that we were looking into. I think originally he had estimated it somewhere around 75,000. That actually is down. They're looking at the topographical survey is 11,000. The design and drawings is 51,500, and then the bidding service is 5,000 for a total of 67,500. That's for survey work, design, drawings, and bidding of the project. We can pull that. We've got the money to cover it if we so choose to do so. And that'll get us ahead on actually proceeding with the project if we can get the design out of the way. And then once we get that back in, we'll have an idea of what we need to budget to actually do the project on 6th Avenue, which I think was somewhere in the neighborhood of 460,000 was their original estimate, but they don't think it's going to be quite that much. I don't know how much they'll shave off of it or be able to shave off of it, but that was their original thought. And that's with raising the road and also the basin.
Okay, so let's clarify. So the estimate for completion of detailed engineering is 67.5.
That's correct. That's the survey, topographic survey, the design and the drawings, and then the bid process.
Okay, so where would the funding come out of? Where's that funding going to come out of?
Mostly streets. That's where the money is available. The stormwater is part of what we do there. They've got some money set aside for that anyway, as far as that work goes, but Brad's got some excess at this point in time that could cover it.
But these are funds out of the 2021 budget, and we need to get this done so we can figure out what we want to do in the 21-22 budget.
And he said mostly streets. Is there somewhere else where we're looking to take some of this?
No, this would be streets. It's not mostly, it would be streets. It's just that streets handle all the stormwater in the city as well. They've got money in the budget. They use, I think it's 20 or 25,000, Brad, to begin with, but Brad's had a good budget year.
Thanks, Brad.
I'm sorry, give me just a second. I'll look that up. 20,000 of that is stormwater project, drainage projects, and then 20,000 for right-of-way projects.
Yeah.
But even with that, he's got, he's in excellent shape based on his expenditures. So the budget could cover it.
So this is an activity that we would undertake to get this done. Are we going to have a result back from HDR in a timely fashion to get here before, say, the start of June, so they can turn that around in April, May, probably 6 weeks?
I can talk to him and see. I can't give you a definitive answer on that at this point, but I can find out.
Well, you know, when I became mayor, this is one of those projects that was sitting there that demanded attention. And really, in my view, we can't proceed until we get a firmer picture of how this all puts together.
Right.
And, you know, we've got to get a good idea. It's a worthy project to, you know, not have citizens being flooded and keeping us under control. We got to get the details and see if the scheme's going to work. And that's my opinion of it. And so we're really not looking for council action per se, but if anybody has any questions or comments, I think that let's ask them and see if we make sure they're addressed.
John, is the money you're talking about being there for the engineering, is that in Department 301 or is that a Fund 21?
That'd be 10-301. Be standard general, to be general funds, not capital improvements.
It's coming out of the departmental.
Yeah, I mean, there may be some money in the capital. I didn't look in that, but right now the funding is available with the general fund portion of 301. If you would prefer me to go into the 21-351 or the capital improvements, I can look in there as well.
Well, I mean, it is engineering for what is obviously a capital job, and that may be a way to approach it. But we don't have a budgeted an approved capital job in there, and I think that's probably why John went to the operating budget. But that's you know, as far as the project goes and capitalization, that's a very good approach, which I would count on Ralph as having. So
He started spitting off numbers like we got
there
right
you
now.
go.
I saw him digging. I knew he was about to ask something.
But we can look into it and make a recommendation either way. But I think the important thing is that we've got to move forward with engineering. If we don't, okay, we don't have to do
If
it.
we don't, we're that much further behind than
Right.
we are on a project.
So we gotta get it dressed up.
Right now, it's looking pretty horrid. I mean, I think we got some vegetation coming up, and the sooner we get moving on it. So we'll proceed. John, are there some factors on figuring out which account it wants to come in that we need to clarify, or we're gonna figure it out?
Say that one more time.
Are there any questions or factors on which part of the budget it comes out of?
Not really. I mean, we passed the budget. The budget is an overall set of figures. We're just looking at what line items to use for that. But the budget is passed in an overall. As long as you don't exceed that budget, then and stay within that, then it's kind of at your discretion.
So just
Correct me if I'm not right there, but I mean, they approve a budget. It's not a line item budget. It's what we use to help set goals for. But if need be, we can shift that and to get things like this moving that are needed or more necessary.
It's all in one pot. It's
Yes,
just
ma'am.
separate on paper.
Yes, ma'am.
So that is specific as you were getting was when you were looking at the actual expenses in 301 compared to the budgeted expenses.
We will go back and look at the budget, where each department's expenses are. And of course, with this being stormwater, we would normally put stormwater projects in streets or through capital improvements as part of streets too. So that's the reason we're wanting to move in that direction.
right. Okay. We're getting some feedback, something or something. Okay, so any other considerations on, maybe not doing it, or I think we're gonna move.
No,
forward.
I
Okay.
think move
So
forward.
we,
with
okay,
it.
so
And I'm okay with him using that account since you don't have it named as a capital project yet. Just go ahead and-
I think it's the.
We've been saying about 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's going to be pretty quick, pretty speedy. And I think that they've got quite a lot going on already. So we gotta get this firmed up and so we can have budget consideration. Okay. That's all I've got on that one. Moving on to new business. Is there any additional old business there before we move forward? Linda, you got something? Okay. Moving to new business, we'll entertain the auditor's report.
Hope he had his chance.
Uh-oh, would he come back to it?
I don't think he's here.
Well, we'll come back to it.
I will contact him.
Okay. Well, when you contact him, let's move on to item B, new business, item B. Consideration of amendments to the City of Calvert City Code of Ordinances. And we distributed some copies of this, trying to get some information out in time to consider and study. We put that out last Tuesday to council members, I believe it was Tuesday. And look at some of the discrepancies that we have with our current public utility ordinance. With that, I think the proper form would be to introduce the ordinance for discussion. So does anybody want to make a motion to introduce the ordinance for discussion?
I will. I make a motion to introduce the ordinance for discussion.
Okay.
I second.
All right, with that, let's introduce, take a vote at this point. Question on parliamentary procedure.
Chris?
You want me to read it, Gene, before you want to read a summary of it before you
Once you read it,
introduce it?
everybody had prepared their spot, a summary of that larger draft. Okay, there's a one-page summary of the larger draft. It was on the desks. Make sure everybody got a copy of that.
Here I did. So he's gonna read the summary rather than the.
Yeah, he's gonna talk about summary initially.
Oh, yeah.
That'll let us get down through the summary first. And I think we're gonna have a fair amount of discussion on this topic. Okay, so let's go and read the summary at the beginning.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Good.
Okay. A summary of an ordinance amending section 34.015 et sec of the Calvert City Code of Ordinances relating to the management of the Calvert City water and sewer system and governing the Board of Public Utilities. The City Council of the City of Calvert City has adopted an ordinance. This is a summary of the ordinance. Has adopted an ordinance amending section 34.015 of the Calvert City Code of Ordinances, revising some of the provisions governing the management of the city's water and sewer department and the organization and duties of the Board of Public Utilities. Specifically, the ordinance addresses the following. The name of the board will be Board of Public Utilities. The number of board members will be 3. The board will hold regular meeting each quarter and will hold special meetings as frequently as the board, the mayor, or the general manager may deem advisable. The water and sewer system will be operated as a department of the city, vesting responsibility for the day-to-day management and control of the system in the mayor and his staff. The board shall act as an advisor to the mayor and the general manager regarding the long-term viability plans, strategies, budget, and financial requirements of the system. The financial resources and aspects of the water and sewer system shall remain separate from the general funds of the city and to be accounted for accordingly. A copy of the entire ordinance is maintained and may be viewed without charge at City Hall, 861 East Fifth Avenue, Calvert City, Kentucky, during normal operating hours. That's a summary.
Okay. Now, this issue has a lot of layers to it. When I became mayor, this is one of the 2 issues that was put to me as something that needed attention immediately. You know, as you know, the previous water manager had left us. And so the superintendent was acting. And so did he or did he not have powers as the water manager? Who had the power to making that? And so when you go back and look at the ordinance that we had, which we've got the details of, and we'll probably refer to somewhere in this conversation, is that I think when Mayor Jones was looking at this and realized that the board, the ordinance was not really being followed as written. Okay, so the hiring and the firing of the manager and different parts in this ordinance, it really wasn't operating that way. So the budget was coming through the council and things. So I'm faced with trying to figure out how we're going to get the superintendent upgraded to manager and how we're gonna bring that in-house and run the department efficiently. So that thing had been out there, and I believe probably since October or November. Greg's explained some of the timeline on this, okay, on what's going on. So this is one of those issues. I think that the last issue, the retention basin was one. This is the second one. It really requires something to happen now. So what we've got is the superintendent is working himself to death doing both jobs and reporting a lot of different ways. Okay, so we need to kind of sort through this and get some action there. So Greg, what was the overall concerns about this ordinance versus where we need to be?
The ordinance itself, the old ordinance versus, okay. Do you want me to address the history of how Lynn got here, or you just want me to talk about the substance of the ordinance itself?
Let's talk about the substance. Why, with the
Okay.
ordinance as it stands before revision has some issues with it. So mainly, what were the issues?
Okay, the legal issues had to do with, and I don't have the statute written down here, but it is chapter 96. There are two options for a city who wants to operate a waterworks. One option is to operate that waterworks as a department of the city. The other option is to appoint a commission to operate the waterworks. I spoke with Chris Johnson up at KLC about the issue, and he said, yes, there are a few cities around the state that are using the commission method, but for the most part, they're larger operations, because effectively using a commission separates the water department from the city. It is like hiring an independent contractor to operate your water system. So their budget is separate. Their management is separate. They are a quasi-governmental entity because the commission members are appointed by the mayor, and they do have to make monthly reports to the council, but they are not subject to governance by the council, and their budget is a separate budget. They do not do their budgeting annually as a member of the system. Also, they are given the authority by statute to hire and fire their own staff. So the mayor and the council would have no role to play in the hiring and firing of staff. Currently, our current ordinance, I went back and tried to find the original organizational ordinance of where the first ordinance establishing our water and sewer board, and couldn't find it in our vault. I found subsequent amendments to it, but I couldn't find the original. It sort of appears that maybe back in the 50s, when this board apparently was created, that they originally, and I don't know what the statute said back in the 50s. I don't know what the statute was, but it would appear that they tried to establish a board of commissioners that may have had to do with bonding. I just don't know for sure. But right now, it's our system is being operated sort of as a hybrid that doesn't exist. It's sort of a hybrid between a commission and a department, whereby our mayor has always done the hiring and the firing. The budget has always been done as a part of the city council's budget. We have shifted funds between the general fund. The city has contributed to the system from time to time, recognizing it as being a municipal water and sewer, and all of those things are contrary to what's allowed in the commission system. And it would and so in discussing this with Mayor Jones, it was his observation that the water and sewer was being operated as a department and should be operated as a department, because we don't have enough customers to allow our water and sewer board to be freestanding to operate as a business. that from time to time, the city council is going to need to be involved and should be involved. So,
When I first
So-
learned in talking, we had been behaving probably in compliance with state law, but not in compliance with our own ordinance. And I think back to being a council member, and I think about the monies that have been transferred in. And, Calvert Water's got, and Dan's probably gonna have to correct me here, but we got 14 to 1,500 customers. And, Paducah Water, which I think is seen as pretty excellent, has got 15,000 to 20,000. So we've transferred money in. They bring their budget to us. We have been able to push back or keep rates. So we have the political body intervening in some of the financial aspects of that. So we, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. We've been operating it as a department. I think, I looked at it and believe that to be true. And so at that point, I get in and say, okay, we've got to do some kind of correction to the ordinance so we can, start behaving better. Meaning we can agree on that, I think. Now, we introduced this, I think, to the water board, the commissioners on Tuesday, and it'd been kind of simmering along for a while. And it was a conversation that, it's change, and they felt like they weren't enough in the know as we made this move forward. I can't change that. I certainly can sympathize with that direction. And Calvert City's always had we've been blessed with that ability to seat boards that do a very good professional job and really try very hard. And water board is certainly one of those as well. Don't mean to take anything away from the efforts in that area. And really regret that seems to be some of the perception. But what we need moving forward, the idea is with instead of replacing the city manager and having a water superintendent, that we could have some serious cost savings by bringing those tasks into the mainstream of city life, city government. I mean, front office does many of those tasks now, and there's some other things that can be streamlined. And so we no longer have a PE stamp sitting in that office. So we've got to have engineering resources on Rolodex. We've got to have training to understand that the regulatory end of the proposition is properly met, and that's on both water and sewer, and having the resources there, not just to help us know what we have to do, but actually conduct some of those reports, maybe push some of those reports forward. So there's kind of a little adjustment, because, the bottom line is we've had a personnel change and we've got to reorganize. So that's another layer to this thing. So, we're out of compliance with an ordinance. Okay. And we've got to realign some duties to make sure everything's fulfilled and working properly. Now, we've known, as a council member, I've known for quite some time that the water plant needs to be moved out of a flood zone and moved into a different area. And we've really got to focus work on that right now. And there's some other things we're going to touch on here during this meeting, that there's possibility that some funding may be available for that. So what is other funding? What does that market look like? So that is really, instead of the day-to-day blocking and tackling, let's look forward, see how we streamline operations, see how many gallons are flowing where, what the cost of water is, whether it's softened water that we're selling for, we can get some major customers on board to pull some volume through the plant. So those are the kinds of things that I would prefer, and I believe that we need to have a board looking at more so than, give me the rundown of the day-to-day. And quite frankly, as a council member, I'm probably not as in tune with the day-to-day operation of that board as I would, because that's what they were doing. So with that, I'll be quiet and kind of listen and see what are some concerns of council members. I started to say fellow council members, my bad, of some changes here. And what do we need to sort out and flesh up? So apologize for wandering. The thing that's pushing it for time on me is getting an employee properly sorted out on their jobs and tasks and making sure things are running efficiently instead of haphazard.
Greg, one question I have, we've hired two city managers. Two water board superintendent, general managers for the water, Kevin Murphy and then Roger. Why wasn't this found then? This discrepancy.
Oh. Nobody, no, just nobody asked the question. It just didn't come up when they were, because nobody was looking at reorganizing and just the issue just didn't come up. So the entire ordinance was never scrutinized. It happens all too often, but what happens over time is that your ordinances sort of evolve over decades. And then at some point you look back and you realize, oh, that's not in keeping with the statute, or that's not in keeping with itself. So it just was not. The question didn't get asked and it just didn't come up.
Second question is, why was this not discussed with the water board? Did you discuss it with any member of the water board? The restructuring?
Me? Are you talking about me or Lynn, or who are you talking about?
I asked if you had discussed this restructuring with any member of the water board since Lynn's death.
Oh, since Lynn's death? Probably not since Lynn's death. Back in October, when Roger told Lynn that he was leaving, then Lynn contacted me, and Lynn wanted to sit down and wanted me to listen, and he wanted to talk to Roger. And I think he wanted to talk to Dan just to sort of get a feel for whatever Dan's not knew about the situation. And I think maybe John was involved in some of that, but primarily it was just Lynn doing his own research, trying to figure out what the situation was and how he thought it ought to be how he thought we should go forward. And so
we have boards in place, and I'm not saying that we don't need to do some restructuring, but we have more than one time on the council sat here and said, we have boards to bring us the information. And we so many times refer to their judgment because we feel like they know the situation. And I think that this was a bad mistake that only one person on the board was included in this conversation. And I know it can't be changed, but it shouldn't happen again.
Anita, this is Dan. Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
It was still being worked by the mayor. So there was really nothing to bring to the board because the mayor had not finalized his thinking on that. And he did talk to me, and he talked to the ones that Greg talked about, but he had not yet finalized exactly where he thought the water board was needing to go. So there was really nothing to discuss with the board because we didn't have it, and he got sick and passed, as we know, before he got that all formalized.
I could say there's just been a general discussion about this with the mayor.
Yes.
I said nobody could mention that to the board members.
Well, I guess it could have been, but it was nothing there to really discuss because we had no idea where he was going to go with it. So
I think what she might be asking is, where did Paducah Sun get their information from? Who did they get that from?
they were at the last council meeting, and Gene asked me to explain to you guys what ordinance we were that Lynn had been working on, and then he was working on. So I just sort of gave a general overview of what had happened to date. And the Paducah Sun, I suppose Paducah Sun was sitting in that meeting, and they just reported.
It was part of the city council.
No, that wasn't what I was asking. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but that's how the water board found out about it. But I'm just saying that all this discussion was going on. I don't see why it couldn't have just, the mayor hasn't come to any conclusions yet, but we're discussing this. I think they should have been told. And I'm sorry, but I just want to get that out there.
Okay.
The second thing, and then I'll cut that short, but I don't agree with 3 members. You can have 2 people running your whole committee because a quorum would be 2 people. I don't understand why we're cutting it to 3 people when you could have as many as 6. You can have from 3 to 6 people. And if you have 6 people, you can have a exact, I have to say it, ex officio member of the council sitting on there that could bring us information back. They wouldn't be able to vote. That may be something we need to look at. I disagree with the fact, I don't understand why you didn't have meetings in February and in March. That 4 meetings a year with special called meetings is not enough for a board. You might as well not have one, in my opinion. And
Well,
I just,
I'm trying to make a list here, Ned.
okay.
Okay.
And I know it's as needed, but why? Why do you have, this is not the same kind of department as the street department, because the street department is not charging people money and not having to set policies and rates.
Neither is this department.
But that is some consideration that they bring rates to us, the board does, right? The water
Yeah, I'm
board.
interrupting. I'm sorry. Okay, so you take exception, there only being 3 members.
Right.
Okay.
And meeting only, setting up to have 4 meetings a year.
Meeting frequencies.
Right,
Okay. We're not discussing all these points if you go through them, but we're gonna come back. to
right, okay. And my suggestion would be, and this is what I've talked to Gene about it
Okay.
today.
Can we hang on just a minute on the suggestion?
Okay.
I'm trying to,
Okay, okay.
you've obviously given us some thought, and I want to make sure that we don't skip over any of your items of concern.
Okay.
Okay. Then there's some answers to some of these.
Okay.
Okay.
Training for the board members would be
Okay.
another one. And if there's been a problem with how this board has worked, then I think, I'm wondering why their duties haven't been outlined for them.
Well, we're not, I don't want to get this involved in how well they're working or not working. I think the water and sewer board have done
I do too.
a great job. And I don't want to get into any of that. But, we need to see what our ordinance is moving forward. And so there were several, is anybody got some more issues to talk about before we,
Well, I'm trying to read into,
or we can start addressing these if you want to, or
well, I'm trying to figure out, I've been less in the other discussion on this, but we're not dissolving the board, we're changing its focus and shifting power a little bit.
yes.
I have no trouble with being able to hire and fire. It's the other things that I have a problem with the way the board's being restructured. If the the urgency is to hire someone to be superintendent, then let's give you, if that's the way it has to be done, and then the restructuring part of it, let's have a workshop, or let's have the water board members who are there now, all of them involved, and the council involved, to exchange ideas and come up with a way that this can legally work.
What you're saying, Gene, is we're getting away from doing the water board being a day-to-day operation of looking at it every month. That's what's going on day-to-day for the last month in the water board. You're wanting to go towards more of a, what's our capital projects going forward? Where are we looking at going down the road, big picture?
With real
Where are we
reports.
going with, what do we want to do with the sewer for the next year? What are our big picture for the next, not just year, next 5 years? Where are we going? That's what you're wanting, is more of an advisory board, not a come in, look at, well, this month we had this much water loss going out and this much coming in. That's what we're looking out for out of this
Right.
new ordinance, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, never thought of it until this change, but, the water and utility board always seemed like it had more power, like its manager reported to them instead of vice versa. Right? I mean.
Well, yeah, I'm not prepared to really, because I simply don't know many of the things of points of concern. But we've got to move forward with deciding marketing strategy. How do you make a utility of 1,400 people profitable, or at least try to maximize the profit? There's a big, huge decision on the water plant and I don't want to go into details on that, but you can see there's many facets that have to be determined from location, to actual design and cash outlay and finance. Okay, so, the general manager has got to run the system. And if the general manager doesn't effectively run the system, then that becomes a performance issue. And then you figure out what you're going to do from there. Okay, so we've got the front office is involved in establishing services. Okay, we're streamlining some of the billing operations. So many of the things that the utility is required from city water is pulling resources. Wrong word. They use resources to get that done. It's not like they've got a separate building, and separate staff, and separate accounting. It is a city department, so it is needed. Now, as far as voting and who can rule the roost or whatever, there's really not a lot of voting to take place when you're advisory. It's not like, hey, we're going to go this way, that way. How does this group make that decision? It's going to be a review of the plans and or whatever. It's advisory, and the superintendent in with the mayor with advice from the utility board will determine the direction it's going to. It's not like you're going to have 5 people that are going to vote, 3 vote one way, 2 vote another to do a certain thing, because they're not running it. If there's anything that comes to voting, the voting on those kinds of issues are going to be brought actually here. Because if it's a big issue, it's going to involve, it'll involve a budget issue. And so the voting will happen in this room, okay, with you guys.
Okay, is your park board considered an advisory board?
To us, yes.
But do they vote on things?
Well, sure.
They vote on
They don't have,
projects.
they don't have any power.
They don't have any
Well, I'm not
Yeah.
saying power, but I'm just asking you, do they vote on things?
Sure. Well, I mean, the water board will too. They can possibly vote on
That's why.
what projects they want. to bring
And I
to the
think
city
another
council.
thing, I think having 5 people also gives you more ideas.
Yeah,
And
that-
it,
That's one of the questions I had,
that's.
so I cut the board from 5
Right,
to 3.
right,
Why,
okay.
why is that such, why, that just decreases the amount of information.
And one thing that I did bring up, I don't have a problem with term limits. I think that might be a good thing.
Yeah, well, in terms.
I don't think that's even in there, but that might be something.
I heard something about the
That was already-
terms.
That was already in there, I think. term limits
Yes.
were.
Well, some of the, go ahead, Kevin.
My thing is, are we going to, who is actually gonna be running the day-to-day operations? Are we looking to hire somebody? Are we gonna appoint somebody?
If you want to get into the personnel point, right now, the superintendent has been acting as manager.
Okay,
Okay,
all right,
Silas.
right.
Silas is manager. Silas has got a lot of qualifications and things for that role. He's been enrolled in water. We'll mess this up. There is a rural water board, has got some management training programs, and he was progressing through that. 2020, like everything else, it kind of stymied that. And that's, we talked about some of that already, and he's going to continue in that role. So right now, we want to get into the personnel end of things. Silas Traylor, who is the water superintendent, is acting manager, and he hasn't really received that promotion yet. He has not consummated the deal and been hired as manager with the changes that need to take place to compensation, to expected number of hours, and all the things that come with a move like that. Okay. So that hasn't happened, and it's been kind of, one side, both one leg at the water department, one leg at the managerial role is pretty tough to do. I'll tell you from experience, and that's been going on since October, and that's one of the reasons that we need it. But I don't think anybody's going to raise Cain about that now. It takes a little bit to get this straightened out. Okay, we can work with that. The water department has some practices, and Dan is a good one. Would be much better than me to talk about what that is. Some of the procurement practices needed to sustain that investment are different than some of the other things that the city needs in other departments. If something goes down on you, you need to lay hands on it. So some of the quoting process for the stuff that's less than $30,000, they got a different set of procedures at work there. I think there's some different things on the personnel side of life. Those policies don't need to be struck down. They need to be, incorporated. I mean, we have different policies for the police department, for the fire department, for the water department, those can work within the structure and stay, okay? No, I know this is a wide ranging conversation. I'm just trying to get it going in a constructive fashion of what the differences really are.
I mean, this seems, it's a wide range of conversation, this seems an extreme amount of changes here as well, so that's why I think everybody
Okay.
is very vested and very interested to know, instead of just marking off in a summary of the ordinance,
Mhm.
some things, and I've never served on the water board, so I don't know, I always don't know all the workings of the water board, so.
And I see a lot of passion in all 5 of these members. So then to say to narrow it down to 3. Let's see where that will be.
3 now.
No,
there's
there's 5.
five.
There's 5.
I mean,
There's 5.
three unexpired terms.
Yes, there's 3 unexpired terms right now.
Okay.
And so that's another part of the limbo, that you have, volunteers hanging out there in limbo, which is, is a problem too.
Well, can I ask the question with their change in scope that I think we all agree on? Is 5 necessary? Because 5, and that is a legit question. I don't know the answer to, because if they were looking at day-to-day things, sure, you need a lot of people because it's all the time. If we're just looking at big picture things, do you need 5? It seems like the number of people is the point of contention so far, so I'm.
Here's a couple of things that where I would think. And I don't want to hold the conversation, but there have started with the discussion with the water board members, they have started an apprentice program
Yes.
for the people in the water department, where they can come in and learn and move up and, learn to the certification and stuff. That came from the water board.
Sure.
There's another one where they're looking at, and I'm not sure where the location, Gene can correct me on it. They're looking at, instead of having demand meters where we are charged all the time, they're in talks with Silas, is in talks with West Kentucky about having primary line run in there, and then they will have regular meters where they will only be charged for what they are used. They're not charged at a certain rate for just being there. That came from one of the board members.
She's talking about we have a drop for a lift station, say, what is the electrical drop and what's the nature of the contract with West Kentucky? So, your point's what
The point is, there's a lot of good ideas that come out of there, and I think we're stymieing that.
well, I don't know those 2 ideas in particular. And I don't know that now's the time. I don't know where they came from, board members, or I just don't know where they generated from, but they were developed while there was a water board. Okay,
Right.
Well, there's going to be a water board moving forward, and those are the kinds of ideas that I think that we need. Now, I don't know who actually, how those came about each one.
Well, let's say there is the possibility there, that if you have an advisory board, that if you have 5 people, which you've always had, to me, you have the possibility of bringing more ideas and things into that.
Okay.
We don't, it's not like it
Right.
costs us.
I understand. And, there's other things that, they told, the Board of Commissioners told us that they wanted to go to self-reporting meters, probably not the right term. Okay. We're using United Systems. That was generated and brought. There's, a lot of, those are the bigger picture items that we need, the advisor that I personally think that would be where the advisory board is going to continue to be imperative.
Right.
In the shift from 3 to 5, that was first told to me, and I think that was explained. I don't know what's going through his mind, but it would certainly set that, hey, we got a different focus than maybe we had in the past, because it looked different. It'll be tactically different. I'm not going to live or die on the 3 versus 5. Now, I do think there's another topic. If you'll allow me to switch to this topic here a little bit. Meeting frequency. We're trained, the council's trained that we have a standing meeting. Everybody knows when the standing meeting is. And so when we see language that we're only meeting once a quarter, we know that if you have anything outside that quarterly meeting, we know it's a special call agenda, right? So Greg, would you like to talk to me about the idea that the ordinance calls for a mandatory quarterly and it leaves the door open for some other things. You want to discuss that?
Well, I can only tell you what I think Lynn was thinking about, what I recall him having said. Dan, feel free to join in. I think the idea was that what Lynn was perceiving was he needed big picture, wisdom from the hill kinds of view of what's going on, and did not, and wanted the board to understand that and not to get hung up in the day to day, what kind of pump to buy and what size of pipe to buy and brands. And I think his thought was, if you're going to make them have a meeting every month, that may or may not be in timing with things like grant applications or consideration of special meetings. I think what he was wanting was for them to be more active in the world where he was needing the help. And that a monthly meeting, at least in his mind, gave an impression that you're grinding out the nuts and bolts rather than being the board of directors and the monks on a hill.
Every other board,
That's kind of all I know.
every other board meets once a month. And with all due respect, we don't know what Lynn was thinking.
No.
We have Greg's interpretation, we have my interpretation, we have everybody's interpretation of what he was thinking. That shouldn't be a consideration. What should be a consideration is what is best for the city and how we can best move forward and still show respect to the boards that we have and the way that we work. And I mean that. Just,
Let me weigh in on the number of meetings, if you don't mind. I think you're somewhat correct in your thinking there, Nita, that maybe it does need to be monthly as opposed to quarterly, because if we're weighing in on a major project, we would need to have a lot of special call meetings rather than the regular monthly meeting. I'm not objectionable to either three. I mean, the quarterlies are monthly, but it might be a smoother run board if it does meet monthly and we change our focus from away from the day-to-day operations and focus. And if we're focusing on 5-year budgets and so forth, that's going to take some time for the board to work through those. You just can't do it every 3 months.
Special call meeting, you want to talk about what's on the agenda. You can't talk about general things that come up or something like that.
Yeah, we know that. I mean, as council members, we know that can be somewhat limited. So, you'd have to say, we're going to talk about a general topic and keep it general. And, that was my concern too, is that, special call meetings, you got to put a little bit, we should have a fair amount of thought to every meeting actually. But, I can see on big projects, there's going to be, big projects, there's teams. There's opportunity for Calvert City's water infrastructure right now to go after grant money. I mean, we're basically already at the starting line with some of the people already patting around the track in front of us. Yeah. So there's going to have to be a focus on that. Okay. There's going to wind up having to be a focus at some point on that water plant. There already has been topics in the past, rehab of the sewer system. So you got the city manager, scratch that, you got the utilities manager. Okay, he's going to have line doing some of that, but he's not going to be able to devote time to making a lot of the decisions on these projects. And so, in addition, if it's 3 members or 5 members or 6 members, I fully expect to have ad hoc people come in. Now, whether or not you got to include that whole board in each one of those topics, then may or may not choose to organize like that. And I can see us having to put an engineer on the clock. You've got to come in from whatever the successful firm is. What are the things we need to know about? And it's going to be, look, guys, this mayor has not got time. I'm not trying to set up myself as being any kind of utility manager at all. the utility manager is gonna have to work through that, and he's gonna have to, lead that effort and go in the advisory committee, things like that. How do we streamline front office operations? Can you entice people to go direct deposit, not direct pay?
Payment.
And, what are the credit card fees? What is the cost of processing a check versus a credit card transaction? What makes sense? How do you incentivize a customer base to do certain things? There's going to be people going, this is a change that's going to go beyond what we currently see. Okay, so how do we make sure that we stay on the cutting edge of customer expectations, water quality, and the whole enchilada? And so I don't know. Where do we go from here? What do we do? So first off, we need to in my opinion, make a big decision. Utilities is a board of the city. Everybody can agree on that. Okay, it's not going to be a freestanding commissioner type affair. Am I hearing consensus? Now you guys have got to pass this ordinance. I don't get it, but
Well,
you
I
guys
mean-
are trying to do some leadership here.
Okay. I'm gonna touch on.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna ask, besides the number of members and the frequency of their meetings, the actual meat and potatoes of this is a pretty significant change of power. So do we have any heartburn on that? Because I mean, 3, 5, monthly, quarterly, but do we care that we're shifting power? Because that's what is bigger to me. And I'm okay with it. But I'm asking.
Is all, I'm trying to wrap my head around.
They can no longer fire the GM. That's moving. Right.
Yeah, I don't think they did.
Well, we said that.
It said they did, but they didn't. It always came.
Okay.
Now, Dan would have to answer. Dan, how involved did we get with hires at the water plant, for instance?
You with hires,
Yes.
we would do the interviewing, do the research for whatever position we were looking for. Would be interviewing for 2 or 3 people. If we could get them, we would weed them out by using the past manager and a couple of members on the board. And then we would talk about them as a board, and then we would recommend those to the mayor, and the mayor typically would sign off because we had gone through that process for him. I don't recall him ever rejecting one, but he could have if he had thought that we had made a mistake there. But we did not actually do the hiring. We always took it to the mayor for his final approval.
Actually changes now.
Well, but it sounds like they did 90% of it.
They did 90% of the work, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, the mayor made the final decision.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference.
Okay,
So, this mayor, future mayors could just not include them at all.
Exactly.
If we pass it like this, not saying, well, but that's just how.
well, think about the time and energy it took for those board members to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, now, the city solicits employment applications. They know HR. City manager knows when he has an opening, when he doesn't. City manager knows when he needs to create a new position or doesn't.
Now, are you talking utilities manager or?
Yes, he did
Okay,
again.
okay.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. You do need to clarify. I mean, a deep dive. Okay, so the utility manager will understand, I got an opening, or I need an extra personnel, and they'll identify that I got an opening, and then he would go and say, get me some applicants. Okay, and so we would, get people involved who normally solicit applicants, and I'll tell you, it'll be the mayor and the city manager and the water manager perhaps, and Glenda, or maybe one of the other clerks will be cataloging this stuff. And then, ask for, a member perhaps of the board or whatever, be participative in that. And you go and they'd interview them, and then the utility manager would decide who they were gonna hire. And that would be a good example of what I visualize the difference being. Then the next mayor may decide to go back and put it all on the board and they'll take it. But, you know, that, the energy needs to be looking down the highway.
I can see, I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm okay with changing that,
Mhm.
or that the mayor could do that. I
You know,
I can see that.
The utility manager has got to run the department. I mean,
Right.
how do we do hires in the road department?
Right, I'm in talk,
Okay.
that's fine. I don't have, that's not an issue with me.
Is there actually a plan to hire a general manager? We've used that word several times, but
Are we gonna promote
are
hires?
we,
Well, we talked about that briefly.
I don't want to get into personnel, but
Well,
just position.
Right now, the water superintendent is acting manager, and that individual is in the development program and thought to be the one that we're gonna go with, okay? And it's gonna be, you know, again, I live it my everyday life of managing a small company. As things change, you have buckets of responsibilities, and it's ever-changing buckets. And sometimes you get some extra ones, and you have to, you know, it swells, and you gotta put up with it. So right now, the intention is to try to streamline it, and, you know, you've got two people, that we had two people, and they weren't asleep. They were all very busy doing things. So what is it that's not getting done now? Who's gonna do what by who? One of them is, you know, having that Rolodex and making sure you go out to the engineering firm immediately. You know, I think that, you know, we were fortunate at the time of having a PE set here, and they could do those things. Well, we can't now. So that's gotta go out quick. And so the regulatory issues and some things, and, then there's gonna be some backfills. I mean, if you have a person who's now a manager, they won't hopefully not be on rotation for maintenance duties on a weekend,
Right.
okay? And some other things have to change. So there may be, I expect there to be some more help needed at various positions that the superintendent used to do.
So I feel like hiring is definitely in the near future.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
I
for
think
what
so. I think so.
position, we don't know.
But the, you know, on the budget sheet, you probably know this better than me, but with the full meal deal that we carry with benefits and everything at city, that role was about 150K. But by the time you salary them and, you know, that's about $150,000. And that's not chump change. And so we've got to, you know, make sure we're running at excellence. So you're not gonna save all of that. You're gonna have to fill on the low side, and you're gonna have to be on the Rolodex on maybe some of the more specialized tasks. You're not gonna save all of that. But you got to make a run at it. And the other option would be just to try to find that qualified individual. And I'm going to tell you, probably not going to find that same person. You're going to find a great person. You're not going to hire any great people, but they're going to have a different set of abilities, and that all kinds of moves around with who you have. I mean, Kevin had a different set of abilities than Roger had, right? And so you did different things. So it becomes very, you know, even though you have a job description, it's not like some of the other, you know, bigger firms that's what you do, and you find a person to fill that role. It's going to be the leader in a much smaller group of tasks, and so you're going to have some do it. So that's what we face all over the map, you know, with our department heads, right? We got some great ones that do some stuff. You know, I've seen some of the talented part of some of our managers doing some different things that you wouldn't see in other cities, because in other cities that person couldn't do that.
Right.
And here it's the best person to do that. You know, it just has all that. So, Kevin, you got something else on your mind? Okay. Chris?
I know, if I could get-
No, I'm trying to get around, make sure everybody.
No, I'm good with all the discussions we're having. I mean,
Trying
it's a
to,
very,
Chris or Ralph, y'all got something
very
down here?
open discussion that we need
Well,
to have.
would say that this is not just another department. The water and sewer, it could be argued is just separately as important as the city itself. Without the water and sewer, we don't really have a city. So it's not- it's
You start turning on
not
water
the
and
meaning of
sewer,
the Parks
we're gonna have a
Department, which is great. We have
Right.
great parks in the system. But this is a lot more significant, and serious than that. And I'm not against this at all, but it's kind of hard to imagine going from at least where we were, say, 4 or 5 months ago to how's it going to be 2 months after we pass this. I mean, what happens first? Who's in charge?
That's-
So, I mean, I'm not sure that has to be in the ordinance, but who's the person? sees that all these other moving parts work like they should.
And I think one thing too is whoever the general manager, the utilities manager is we, with setting policies and policies, I'm talking about the rates, the cutoff, the things like that. We he needs help on that too. We don't need to overload him with that kind of thing. That's something that the board has worked on, right? When there was a rate change.
The rates are.
Or when,
a lot
but
of
I mean,
times
when
the
they had,
engineers are involved.
but when I felt like they had to come up, with a rate increase, there was discussion and stuff there, or the ordinance that came up about the policies of how, putting a deposit down instead of just, those came from the board. If you put all of that on your utilities manager, it's gonna crush you after a while, I mean, it's an overload.
Dan, you have any comments?
Yeah, that would be, to me, would be one of the big picture things that the board would look at on a regular basis, would be to cover those kind of things, because we would try to, my vision is that the board would try to put together a better package and show you what the rates are in other areas, and then come to you for a rate that would be sufficient based on the needs that we got going forward. And that way we would not be stymieing ourselves to where maybe that we have in the past. And I know you all are very protective of the citizens of Calvert, and I don't want to necessarily go away from that, but at some point we've got to pay for this system. And if you really look at it and try to pay for a system on 1,500 meters out there for the citizens of Calvert, we're going to have to raise rates at some point. We can't always live on what we're collecting from the plants if those plants start closing. And so that would have to be one of the major things that I think the board would have to look at in the big picture, and try to give you a idea where we're going to go, would be my thinking.
Try to get more meters in the ground. And the ordinances, some of the ordinances they have, are stopping them from getting near the customers. There's a section, I don't know, customers that would like, but they wanted it on their leg to hook them up. All that was on the ordinances that we have, where we couldn't waive the cap on fee, or we couldn't even run a line. They wanted them to pay for everything. Whole nother hand of people out there that like that too.
Well, I think Ralph's comments were appropriate. The water and sewer is very important to city infrastructure, just as important as streets, maybe even more so in some regard. And we service areas of customers outside the city. And that is a concern too. Those customers have to, need a voice, and they have a voice with an elected city council and a city manager. There is not a requirement. I think it's done in a lot of different places that they have a member, so to speak, on a board. But how do you expand the meter base? Yeah, you need to, we've got Paducah Water at Reedland, we've got North Marshall Water down Highway 62. We got places in the city serviced by North Marshall Water, and city residents don't have a voice on that board. So these are all issues that we can work through. It is a department of government. This thing does need to be fixed, and so trying to figure out the best way to move forward here on get this thing to a more amenable place where we can move forward.
It sounds like, and anybody tell me, it sounds like we agree with some of the vision changes, I guess, of the board, less day-to-day stuff, more big picture stuff. But it sounds like we have some heartburn over the structure of some of the numbers and the frequency. And maybe the frequency, even more importantly, given the nature of the projects that we have coming up and proposed. I mean,
And Dan said, Dan has agreed with us that
Oh,
maybe it would be better once a month.
I really,
outside,
I'll go ahead. Sorry.
well, outside of the number of members, just for instance, let's say we kept it at 5 and had monthly meetings, would we be okay with this?
One thing, and I don't care, but I think looking at just at some point in time, might want to consider the 6th member and having a member of the city council sitting on it later on, not now, but maybe later on, if we do start this planning and stuff, that you could have more insight into it. I think it would be a good thing. It's my one to do it because they use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just haven't heard a reason. That's what we've had the biggest hang up on. I haven't heard a reason for it yet. The for pro change that would, you know.
And I didn't know if, has the board seen this?
Yes, they have. They
They
have
have.
seen it now.
And how did they feel about the cutting of the members?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
I don't know the answer
because
to that.
I know that I had heard at one time someone had mentioned talents, and I don't know if they were talking about, the employed talents moving around, or if they were talking about the board also having certain talents that they thought of moving somewhere else. Maybe that had something to do with it, but I feel like we should ask them. I want to know.
I've
Maybe
gotten
it should be-
feedback from some of the board members, but I haven't had a workshop with the entire board or anything.
Okay.
So,
Because
some have called me and let me know some things.
I think it's a great idea to keep all the members on, if that, but I would like to know, they may think that, hey, yeah, it's necessary to cut down to 3. But they may, this is what they're dedicated to, this is what they give their free time for, so I'm curious to what they think.
Hey, Gene. Let me toss in, just for clarification, it's not a big deal, but just for clarification, that alternate where you can have 3 to 6 members and 1 member of the city council and so forth, that's if you're operating as a commission. But if we're going to operate as a department, we don't have those limitations. You can do whatever you want to do. You can have as many members as you want to have, and you can decide, and I'll have to look. I'm not sure about there being a council member, but anyway, I just wanted to clarify that portion of that statute that was talking about 3 to 6 and council member was the portion that was dealing with if you were going to do the commission route.
Yeah,
And so just for future purposes, as you contemplate those things, just wanted to clarify.
I think in agreement, the commission idea is probably not gonna work for our situations.
Correct.
Okay. I can easily see some member or members of this council being involved in committee work, trying to flesh out a major $15 million expansion to our
Well,
physical.
I've been on the
Yeah.
engineering selection.
Is that volunteer?
He's got the little to do with it.
I love it. Okay. But, at different times in Calvert City history, there was different level of city council members involved in departments. There has been. And there's some dangers in that, when going with that. And I think that one time, long ago, they had parsed out, actually had some assignments on that. And so, being brought in for a special study, I think is a great idea. I'm not so sure that, having a board, a elected position, part of the board, I think tend to breed some political alliances that may be something that we want to move away from. And actually that was broke up at one point in the past, I think. But, a short-term assignment for a particular project, and especially if we keep everybody informed of it, may be,
Right.
But, you may run into somebody, if the executive says, hey, I want Kevin to be in charge of that, and, you can get some ethical issues there, and so you gotta be careful. But I think if we fully disclose everything that we can see, there's a lot of flexibility. When I saw the quarterly meetings, that was a change for me, I have to admit. And I built, I talked to Greg and understand that you can meet as frequently or not as frequently as you want. If that's something that we would prefer an ordinance to say explicitly, we can do something with that. And then take a look at the number of members or the other parts of it.
Well, it's easy to cancel a meeting if you don't have any pertinent topics. It's harder to talk about something in a special call. You're hamstrung.
Well, I think one advantage would be an advantage would be in a change situation is you do limit the conversation. We're going to talk about this. We're going to focus on this. So it can be under certain things. It could actually be.
Well, but they can still have a special call meeting if they meet once a month.
Yeah, and there were some things in here how the board could actually call one themselves. So,
Yeah, I would personally like to see it in the ordinance that they meet once a month.
okay, so it sounds like, this is something that needs to move ahead and we got budget actions coming up on the agenda and we've got to go back and to work on this thing. So there may be a special call meeting or two on budget stuff and we can throw this in here as well outside because we need to progress this faster than our normal sequence goes.
Okay, so if the ordinance could, if you need that done, could we say, make a motion to approve it with the change that it would go back to 5 citizens and that it would meet once a month?
Or would we have a second reading in there?
But I mean, it has to be rewritten, is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Uh,
Could we do that motion tonight? I'm
The
asking.
gentleman, your inexperienced mayor needs some procedural help here.
If you will, if you guys can just give me a consensus on how you would like it, then I'll make those changes and try to get those changes to you early enough that you can look at them before the next meeting. And then you could have a second reading the next meeting. Dean, let me throw in here that I think it is the cemetery board that has a scheduled meeting every month. And then, and then there's another provision that says they have to have at least, it's either 4 or 6 meetings a year. And so the anticipation is that they might cancel, and they do in fact cancel a lot of meetings. And so if you wanted to do it, that's just an option. I'm just throwing that out there so you'd know that that's the way we do it with one committee is we say, okay, we got a regular meeting every month, but you need to have at least, 4 meetings a year or 6 meetings a year or some such thing.
I do like that.
Right, and on that cemetery board especially, I think that's a very useful piece. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So we can do that and take a look at leaving the number at 5. Am I hearing that leaving the number at 5?
5 monthly with that exception.
How many, at a minimum, how many meetings would you want to require them to have?
4, let's go with 4, quarterly.
Okay.
I can't imagine that, in the
So you gotta
reality.
have at least 4, but we'll have a regular meeting set every month. Right?
Yeah.
Does the time have to be in there, Greg?
Excuse me?
Do you have to have a time in there?
No,
We've always met at 4 o'clock, but that puts a little squeeze on people getting there at times. I just wondered if we could move that back a little bit if you have to have a time in there.
well, they normally do, but we don't have to. What time?
That
You want to propose one?
the normal meeting time isn't in the ordinances normally. Is
It
it,
was
Greg?
in the last
Leave
one.
it flexible. if it's not in there.
They need to establish normal meeting times. Somewhere in
Their bylaws.
It does say 4 PM on the first Tuesday.
Okay, Dan, would you say 5:30?
Oh, yes, it was.
Yeah, I would say 5 or 5:30. Yeah.
Can they do that in their bylaws instead of the ordinance?
Good idea.
They can.
That's what most of the other boards have done. They've established their meeting times in their bylaws, if I'm not mistaken.
As long as we're doing the ordinance, can you just put it in there and be done with it or not?
Do they want to change the meeting time? They have to come back to council.
Oh, no, okay, put
I
it
mean,
in
you
bylaws.
can. They can have to come to the
Yeah, of course we would, but I just feel like that's,
Excuse me, y'all would grant it.
I just feel like that would be an inconvenience for them. I'm flexible.
Okay, so as far as action that the council should take on this, now that we've read it and discussed it and come up with these things and so monthly meetings, board members at 5, right? And we're gonna take the meeting time out of the ordinance and put in there the language of they will decide when their normal meetings are. And to be compliant with being able to make it, all the freedom of information, all the sunshine laws and all that appropriately. Now, come to an agreement on that here, what action do we need to take, Greg?
None, if everybody's in agreement with that in principle, then I'll just make those changes in the ordinance and distribute it, and you can vote on it next time you get together.
We have to take activity to make this the formal first reading.
You already have.
They
Good.
normally do a roll call.
Motion in a second, that's what I was thinking. So,
I'll
But
make
then I need to introduce this ordinance, don't I, and with the changes that or somebody needs to for a
I have
vote.
a motion with the changes that we just verbalized of first monthly meetings and take the time and frequent time and place too of the meeting and make those changes.
Doesn't make a motion.
Second.
So
Linda, roll call.
Glenda, roll call.
So who made the motion?
Tanara.
Okay. And who seconded it? Who?
Rita,
Okay. I'm sorry. If you aren't facing the microphone, it's hard to understand. Councilman Babcock,
yes.
Councilman Coburn.
What?
Whoops, sorry. You can tell I haven't changed my sheet here. Councilman Howard,
Yes.
Councilman Hale,
Yes.
Councilman Rao, Councilman Harrington,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes.
Yes.
Guys, that's to date that's been I appreciate the effort on you guys' part, and I think it was constructive discussion. And I've been very busy as mayor. I've been blessed out twice so far, and it's okay. So I appreciate your help on that, and I think that's good progress on that. So with that, we've got some bid awards that need to be talked about for mowing. Okay. We can go back, or we can make the auditor wait. We'll go back. Me too, Dan. We'll go back and bring up the audit.
You just stayed on my.
Since he's gonna
Oh,
stay,
y'all go right ahead with what you're doing.
we're fine. Let's go. Let's circle back.
Internet traffic at this time is terrible, and so I apologize for my delay getting here. But you just never can tell what traffic's going to be like on the internet this time of the day. No, I really apologize. There's no excuse. My apologies, but please go ahead with your meeting, and I'll pick up at the end.
We're gonna let you go.
All right, I'll go right now then. So you ready for me?
David,
Okay,
I did send it to Blair, so if you want it on the screen, whatever, she will pull it up.
Okay, if she wants to pull it up for the members, that would be fine. That would be great.
No,
I got the email.
we were sent an email, and we're gonna have some copies out here available.
When did we get that?
Was it today?
Not long ago.
I don't
I mean,
know.
I can pull it up. and,
I got my iPad.
I got my phone. I don't. Yeah, I got it.
But hey, look at here. Blair has got it on.
Look at that.
Not that I can, I can actually see it from here. Blair, that's awesome.
All right, Blair, if you'll scroll down a few pages.
If you could just tell me what page, then I'll get it there.
Okay. So our first report is on page 3 of the PDF. So here's a draft of our independent auditors report. Your audit will consist of your auditor's report, your management discussion and analysis, which is in preparation right now, your various financial statements, notes, and required other supplemental information. On the first page, in the second and third paragraph, we discuss the responsibility of the auditor as well as the responsibility of management. These financial statements are your financial statements. Our responsibility is in expressing an opinion on these financial statements based upon our audit. And as noted in the sixth paragraph there at the bottom of the page, is our opinion on these financial statements, and we've determined that these are fairly presented in all material respect. This is known as a unmodified or clean opinion. On the next page, it's noted in the first paragraph there, you will include certain required supplemental information. This is known as your management discussion and analysis. This will be on pages 3 through 10. Your budgetary comparison information on the general fund and your special revenue municipal aid fund. These will be on pages 42 and 43 as expected. And your pension and other post-employee benefit schedules. While these are required information, we only applied limited procedures on this required information, and accordingly, we do not express an opinion or provide any assurance on this information because of the limited procedures. As noted in the ninth paragraph, 2 paragraphs down, your financial statements also included other supplemental information on pages 48 and 49 with regard to your non-major funds. We did perform auditing procedures on this information, and it is fairly presented in all material respect. On the next, we want to go to our report as required under governmental auditing standards. Blair, that is going to be on page 49 of the PDF that you have. This is our independent auditors report on internal controls over financial reporting as required by governmental auditing standards. As noted in the second paragraph, our responsibility is to consider your all's internal control over financial reporting for the purposes of planning and performing our audit, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the city's internal control. So accordingly, we are not expressing an opinion on your city's internal control over financial reporting. With that in mind, as noted in paragraph 4, we did not identify any deficiencies as material weaknesses which we are required to report under governmental auditing standards. In addition, as noted on the next paragraph on the next page, or actually there at the very bottom there, we'll scroll down a little bit. Again, as part of obtaining reasonable assurance whether the financial statements free of material misstatements, we did perform tests of compliance with certain laws, regulations, grant agreements, and contracts. And as noted, we noted no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under governmental auditing standards. So these are the 2 reports we expect to issue with the final report. Just some overall comments on the activity of the city during the year. Your net position increased about 280,000. Blair, that's going to be back over on the PDF page 9 of the PDF. So overall, the city's net position increased about 208,000, and the municipal increased about 72,000. On the previous page, on page 8 of the PDF, your unrestricted and restricted cash did increase this year by about 1.5 million. Primarily, this is from additional capital construction that occurred during the year. Your capital assets, they increased about 1.4 million during the period. That's your overall, that's your increase in capital additions less depreciation. Your governmental activities increased about 929,000 and your municipality increased about 514,000. Overall, your long-term obligations increased about 988,000. The bulk of that increase is due to pension and other post-employee benefit obligations of about 779,000. Overall in the general fund, your operating revenues exceeded your expenses by about 857,000 before transfers. This was greater than budgeted. Your revenues were a bit higher than budgeted and your expenditures were a bit less than budgeted. Things to consider for next year, do not expect your pension obligations to decrease. They are going to increase. Preliminary numbers that I've seen show that the city's pension obligations will be about 6.17 million, which is about a $737,000 increase over this year. And your other post-employee benefits, you can expect that to increase about 564,000 to about 1.9 million for next year. And so this concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions for me at this time?
Yes, it did. We got to go do some work with Fran.
You got it down.
You know.
David, why is the liability for the pension and the other benefits, those employee benefits, why are they continuing to go up?
Well, I mean, so that's based on an actuarial study of what your estimated future payouts you're going to have to make for your employees. And so there are several factors that are going to impact that. Probably the biggest impact on it will be their return on their investments. And in periods where those returns are not as great, you're going to see that impact. So when I talk about the increase that you can expect for your fiscal year ending 2021, that measurement date was at 7/1/20, and the market had took a huge hit at the end of March and April. And while it was on the road to recovery, it had not recovered yet. So you're going to see that their underlying assets to cover these pension obligations had decreased. And accordingly, that gets spread, even though maybe the real amount of cash that you're actually going to have to pay out in the future did not change that much. That's probably the largest contributing factor to that. And then there are other factors that also can affect that based upon their actuarial assumptions that they're using. And so any changes in those assumptions can also impact that liability. And so, it is a best guess estimate of what to expect in the future. It's going to be an ever flowing, changing number going forward. I would like to say in the future that hopefully the investments will do well enough along with the contributions that it will become fully funded. Right now, it's not. I think it's about 60% funded. Let me check that number real quick. So no, actually I misspoke on that. The non-hazardous right now is only about 50% funded. The hazardous on the pension is only 46.7% funded. And both of those numbers decreased from the previous year, what their funding amount was. And then, excuse me?
Increase in the liability, right? I mean, of
Right.
course.
And so, and then over on the medical insurance side or the other post-employee benefits, that one's actually in a little bit better financial position. It's currently 60% funded for the non-hazardous and 64% funded for your hazardous. And it's holding its own or increasing slightly over compared to the prior years. So it's in a little bit better financial shape. It's not where you would like it to be. You would like to see that number above 80%. That's considered, for with regard to any kind of retirement or pension to be in a green right now. Those are in what's considered a yellow, and you have to keep an eye on them when they drop. When they get down to the 50 and below, then you're pushing into your red area, and that's where your changes have to be made. And the numbers that they're pushing out and recommending for the employer contribution portions, those have been fixed by the government or the state at this point through legislation. Those numbers can't increase more than 12%. And the actual recommendations that are coming out are higher than that to try to get these fundings back to where they need to be. But that would be such a burden to put on all the local governments is the reason why they've kind of capped it at 12% annually. But the last 2 years have been 12% increases, and you can probably expect that again in the future unless we see a major recovery this year in the market, which we have had a good recovery. So hopefully we'll see that will reflect in the next measurement date if the market holds through June 30th.
Thank you, David.
Uh-huh. Any other questions?
Okay. All right. Well.
Well, again, I apologize for being a little late getting here. And as soon as we've got the rest of the reports we need to add to our report, we'll get final copies. We'll get those bound and we'll get those sent out to you, as well as PDFs sent out to you as well. Hopefully we'll get those completed here shortly. I know Glenda's working on them right now, so we should be able to get this wrapped up fairly quick and get these reports out to you. But if you should have any questions or you ever need to reach out, please feel free to call me or call our office, and they can reach out and get a hold of me if you can't reach me here at the office. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have, as well as I'll be glad to come back next month and do another presentation if you'd like me to present the finals. So just let me know and I'll be glad to do whatever you need me to do.
Thank you very much. You'll be hearing from Glenda as we complete the remainders.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we circle back. I can use those words, can I? So going on to new business, going to consider an award for a bid of mowing US I-24, US 62 interchange. And then the same thing for number 1 and number 2. So John, what have you got to say?
Okay, we received 2 bids on these contracts when they were let. On the bid opening for the I-24 interchange, we received one from Throgmorton LLC and DK Construction Company Incorporated. DK Construction Incorporated actually came in $25 less per mowing than Throgmorton. So they were like $25 apart. I thought that was pretty good. It was also $400 less than we paid per mowing last year. So we recommend DK Construction on that one. On the Highway 62 corridor. Again, we received bids from Throgmorton LLC and DK Construction Company Incorporated. Throgmorton came in at $1,450 per mowing, and DK Construction came in at $1,400 per mowing. So again, DK Construction came in, both of the bids were really close. And so that tells me that they both thought this out pretty good. We recommend DK Construction Company Incorporated for both the highway, the corridor, 62 corridor, and the interchange.
John, how often is that mowing going to take place?
Weekly.
Weekly?
This is the first time that we're gonna roll these amounts up in the budget properly and move it forward.
Were we doing that before we as in the city guys? That's gonna-
400 less than last year.
that's gonna free up
John, you want, no, we
resources.
had a contract on the I-24 interchange last.
We did. I-24 interchange was $1,600 a week last year. It's come down $400 a week.
I'll make a motion to accept bids and recommendations.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All righty then. Moving on down our list. We've got 3 SCBA's. Chief Davis, want to say something about that, or are we just gonna carry on?
We should have that.
That was at the request of Tim, and it's old SCBA's that they're not using anymore. They're difficult to service and they're just not using them. So they wanted to give them to the coroner. The coroner could make some use of them. And so that's purely at Tim's request.
So these, when SCBA's fall off at the tail end of usability, we got to do something with them, and the coroner office expressed a desire. So I'm seeking, I guess, permission to do this disposition. So do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it.
I
So-
did have a question. Are we gonna get another property list like we normally do every year of the police cars and the odds and ends weird stuff that the city needs to get rid of?
Yeah, we were gonna do a
Well,
bid in the middle.
Yeah,
like-
we've just gotten signed up. We've got our first vehicle on Gov Deals. And so now that account is there, as the departments start filtering in their photographs and their information on the sheets, we'll start throwing those up on Gov Deals. So you'll start seeing the vehicles and other things roll up on Gov Deals here in the next week or so.
Now, is that list, so the surplus list has already gone through the council?
Everything that is going up for Gov Deals has already been approved by written determination.
Okay.
If it hasn't gotten a written determination, it is not going up for on the Gov Deals. It's not being surplused unless you guys give us the go ahead. So what we've got is what has already been approved.
It's been a few minutes. Have you got a good list on that, John?
Everybody got what?
You got a good list to refresh our memories on that. Let's go ahead.
I do not. I'll have to go back and pull up all the written determinations, but there's a copy of them.
I believe I may have a list there in my office, John. I'll look in the morning and see.
Okay.
Thrown in here, and we've kind of been, because it's been an unusual year. And the feeling on Gov Deals is that, we'll, people know that Gov Deals were there, and we probably should talk it up. I don't know what the desire, John, do we have anything planned as far as informing the public that surplus equipment is going to be available by that format, or is it just hit it?
It's actually, we put up links, Blair can talk that. We sent her links to go out on social media. So it should be advertised on all of our social media that our Gov Deals account, so they can actually pull it up and look and see what's there.
It's on social media, and it's also on our website on the homepage.
So our citizens have a chance for it, and I think that we have to try to maximize value of it, and that's a good and appropriate way to do it. But it's been a little bit. I think, and we can get together a list of the stuff, and we're not seeking action on it. We get to lift together the stuff. Blair's got it, our Brad's got it. We'll get it out. Okay. Is that all right?
Thank you.
Where we at here? SCBA tanks. You got some copies of executive orders in front of you, and that would be normally, would be okay. I mean, we signed them and they're in front of you. But since this is still in the Zoom world, just go ahead and read them, John. You want to read them?
Yes.
In general, we'll just talk about what they are. Or read them, or page.
Exec, you want me to read them or no?
Want to read them or not?
A summary.
Just summary.
All right, I'll let Gregory summarize them. He's the summarizing man.
I can summarize them. 2102. This was one that during COVID response, we had suspended water disconnection. Okay. And so this was something that I was probably late in signing and bringing that back around. A lot of communication to customers about this ahead of time. There's utility assistance available to water customers. The water board talked about this on Tuesday and asked some pretty probing questions. And we, you know, this is not coming as a surprise to customers if they didn't see this coming, and have even, you know, made some assistance known to them if they're paying attention at all. So, you know, the utility board wanted to make sure that's probably communicated, and I'd signed it, and they got confirmation on Tuesday night that it was. Any questions about 02? Okay, 03. 03. Okay, so 03 was one that, you know, as Lynn passed and was unavailable. What do we do as he was ill in the hospital? And this is not the first time we've run into this. So this was the executive order from my part that gives John the ability to do certain things, and a 30-day right of rescind on my part. This basically follows state ordinance. Okay. Now, one of the things that I cannot do as executive, cannot dictate to you guys, the legislative branch, who's going to run your meeting. Okay. So there was another ordinance, 1501. You guys have a copy of 1501? Okay, mine was an executive order, so John can take my place if I'm not timely, and that's an order. And there's 30 days of bringing that back around. But in 2015, the council passed a Calvert City ordinance that tells you how you're going to conduct the council meetings. So the executive cannot force a meeting chair for you. You have to pick your own. Okay, does that make sense?
Right, Ms.
Okay.
Linda will start us with the pledge, and then we will take the vote from there.
Okay.
Kind of like we done last time.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly like that. So that's, I just want to put that out as a
Basically
backup.
off the state statute, correct?
Yeah, that's another one. That's just, Greg, that was basically off state statute, right? You got it right.
And I copied that too, just in case.
Okay. All right, so that was,
That's right off statute.
yeah, so that was something that we had identified as a gap. We wanted to check that off our list, and that's got a big check on it. And here is a technical issue. Next on the agenda is a technical issue of, everybody's okay with moving forward, right? Okay. Next on the list, going to F, is a discussion of de-annexation of a portion of the Dawes property on the West Second Avenue, Calvert City, Kentucky, which is quite confusing since we didn't ever really need to annex it anyway. So I'll let somebody else, Greg, I think, explain what this is. Or John, who's going to take that one?
Well, yeah, it's,
Okay.
you think you understand it, Chris?
I understand enough of what Howard told.
Hey, Chris?
Yes, I understand enough of what Howard told me to probably be confusing. But basically what happened is about 2 years ago, they started getting a city tax bill that they'd never gotten before. So
What's the location on this? So get everybody on the same page.
It's there, where
Right
on
down-
Calvert City Road makes
yeah,
the curve before you get to, is it, before you get to the house, it's not the house. okay.
now there's like I don't know how big. the
Dress and
section-
Smith property.
Yeah, I don't remember how big this.
Yeah.
It's like 100 feet or something like that of it, or maybe a little bit more that has showed up in the city. Because what was the reason, John? What did you say?
It's a small strip of sliver right there between where they believe is supposed to have been the actual annexation, which was at the Harrell Farm, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's just a little bit of that Dawes Farm that was built into a block system of the old style. when they were laying out grids in the block system. And it apparently at some point when they made the change from the new mapping through GIS or Ezra or whatever it is, it actually took in that entire block. And that's when he started getting bills for that. So there was just a tiny sliver that between the edge of that block and the actual property that is believed to have been wanted, which was I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Harold Farm as we know it now, of the Dawes Farm that actually got pulled into it through GIS. It didn't exist prior to that, to my knowledge.
Actually, it was the Smith farm, the Dawes on.
Yes.
But what do you need a motion, Gene, or-
You can kind of see from the aerial map that the property lines didn't exactly follow the township lines, and the state law that requires that requires the state to GIS everything. If the state ever gets it wrong, and apparently they did get it wrong on this one, if the state ever gets it wrong, it just kind of leaves the cities in no man's land because we've got no recourse. And so we could argue with the state about this forever, that they were wrong on their GIS mapping of the city boundaries, but that would take forever and be a painful and costly situation. So probably the most effective means of straightening out that issue is just to do a de-annexation or a reduction of the city boundaries for that little area, that's on the Dawes Farm that has not previously been in the city. And that would require us to get a surveyor to go out there and survey the part that's being reduced, being taken out of the city. Then we would have to do an ordinance declaring our intent to reduce the boundaries and showing the area that's being taken out. We would need to, once that's passed, then we would send that to Kevin Neal's office. And if the fiscal court doesn't object to that de-annexation within 30 days of receiving our notification of it, then we can pass our, am I here? Did something just happen?
I just shared my screen. It shows you the property in question.
Oof.
This
Oh,
right
okay.
here is the property.
In any event, if the county does not object to us vacating that area within 30 days, then we can do our ordinance reducing the area and move on.
Okay, so what we're looking at doing is we're looking at what? Giving you guys the go ahead to spend, giving us the go ahead to spend money on the surveying and that process. How much is that likely to cost to de-annex this thing?
I don't know what a survey will cost. Surely it wouldn't cost much. It's not a very big piece of ground.
Okay.
But I don't know, Gene. I haven't checked to see what the cost would be.
I want to get a lance and go after the windmill. I'm perturbed to me that we have to spend money to direct something like this. But
We could just pay taxes every year.
we could write off his taxes every year. That's I like that.
But might be cheaper, that's what I'm thinking.
It would be cheaper, but this
Maybe.
I don't, we'll pay taxes for
For
like.
a long time for that.
Yeah.
this
For the survey cost.
I'd say we pay taxes for 100 years to be surveying costs.
what's your pleasure?
Do we have an option? Is that an
I was gonna say, it sounds like
I don't think it's an option.
it's easier to not go through the state to argue with them,
We have,
but it's costly to have this resurveyed when it wasn't our mistake to begin with.
Well, it's going to be, it's not free to get resurveyed. It's going to be a little bit of money. You know, this thing is aggravating because we took the proper care in describing the area, did we not? Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah.
GIS all over the map. You know, we've had conversation about the accuracy of GIS for certain other districts that we have going on too. you know, so.
Initially, the city was described by reference to townships and quarters, you know, the old mapping system from the 1800s. And that's the way the city boundaries were described. But when they started GPSing it from the sky, it wound up in a jagged looking, who knows what happened.
I'll make a motion to move forward on survey and de-annexation of the property.
Second.
So you have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously.
John.
Right here next to my drawing, next to my drawing and my windmill on my notes. Okay, so with that, we'll go to other business. Blair, are you ready with a marketing director report?
I sure can be.
Okay.
Well, my hair looks lovely today. You guys waited so long, I had to turn the light on in my kitchen. It's dark. I guess first things first, in April, we're doing a local author book reading. I should have had it done today, but my time escaped me, so I didn't get to finish the video. But it's a really great thing. I think we have 3 authors lined up, probably 4. And they're just talking about the books that they've published and doing a quick book reading from, a favorite chapter of their book. So I'm excited about that, and you can watch that on Calvert's YouTube page, or you can watch it on the Facebook page. Coming up April the 19th through the 24th, Holly Nursery has donated 150 trees. One of them is a silky dogwood. The other one is a nut-all red oak. And if you live within the city limits of Calvert, you can go over there and pick up your free tree between April 19th and April 24th.
Silky dogwood?
A silky dogwood, yep, or a nut-all red oak, which is, they're both native to Kentucky and easy to grow. Maybe I can actually grow something. I don't know, but I'm going to try it. They have, they're right out front. So in hopes that people stop by and pick up a tree and also do a little shopping while you're at Holly Nursery. Kenny was very generous to donate those trees, and CADA members and Mitchell Ponder from the chamber, we all kind of came together last week and potted them all up. So we'll see if they grow. If I'm the one that potted them, I don't know. But Kenny said we did a good job. So.
Are they available?
What's that?
19th to the 24th.
19th to the 24th. Yep. And that's Earth Week. For you guys that don't know, Earth Day is that Thursday. So that's kind of why we're doing it. And 150 trees in honor of Calvert's sesquicentennial. May 1st is Kites Over Calvert. It'll be in Doctors Park. CADA will be giving away kites at the event. It's first come, first served. Whoever shows up first gets a free kite. And that's on May 1st from 1 o'clock until about 3 o'clock. And hopefully it'll be a beautiful day. If it's not, we operate on kite time. So it'll be the following weekend if the weather's not so nice that weekend. Back by popular demand, Food Truck Friday, that starts May 7th. It will be from 10:30 to 1:30. And that's the first Friday in May, which is May 7th. I have been working with Kentucky Dam Village's State Park Ranger, Richard Palmer. He reached out to David Elliott, and in turn, David reached out to me, and I've met with him a couple of times. Richard has put in 11 geocaching sites at Kentucky Dam Village State Park. And since they installed them at the end of January, they've had 81 visitors at those geocaching sites, which is pretty awesome considering January, February, kind of March. It's cold outside. So they expect those numbers to almost triple. And he reached out and said, hey, can we do something like this in Calvert? Well, when I first started here, I met with the Parks Board and had mentioned geocaching, and we just never really did anything with it. But with Richard's help, he's kind of a master on geocaching. I think we're going to end up putting 8 geocaches in the park. They're in a very special type tube that have a logo that has geocaching on it. The design that he uses is the standard for geocaching, and if anything, it will bring people into our parks that have not been to our parks. And Calvert's kind of off the beaten path, so it's a way to bring people in that may not even know Calvert exists. One of the people that stopped at the geocaching site, which I encourage you guys to download the app, you can go in and comment on the places that you've been to. And one of the people that visited one of the geocaching sites in Kentucky Dam Village posted on there and said that they saw that they had 11 geocaches, all within a good walking distance. And that's why they stayed the night at Kentucky Dam Village, so that they could spend the weekend doing the geocaching. We want heads in beds, and I think that's a good opportunity, especially with Land Between the Lakes being so close by. They have over 400 geocaching sites. So anyway, super excited to partner with Richard Palmer on this and Kentucky Dam Village, and I think it's a good opportunity to get people in our park system.
I'd like to say something about the geocaching. Some people are looking around like, what in the world is that? 'Cause I've heard the same thing. So my
I'll be
husband,
one of them.
my husband comes to me in December, and he was so excited to tell me that he thought he was about to crack a drug bust. He was watching it in action, and he was excited he was going to get these guys, because they are at I think not Love's, they're at Subway across the street from Love's. So he knows that this is definitely a drug exchange taking place. Somebody left something, they're coming back to pick it up. Turns out it's this geocaching. He's gonna kill you. So inside the box, yes, he's probably gonna kill you. So inside the box, this is how we figured out what it was. They pulled it out, and people were signing what state they came from and how long they were traveling, and just saying a little something, sticking it back into the box, clicking that they did go to that site, and then going on to find the next one. So it was just, they stayed the night. It may be the same people, I don't know. So they ended up staying the night because they found out that there were more around. So, and now these are in Calvert. So if you get out on your bike or the walking trails, you can find these. And I think you can create your own. Is that not right? So
Yeah.
if I like take one of my World War II ammo boxes and put a little something in there, and then people will stop and they can take from it or they can add to it.
That help out, Tom? Everybody?
Sure.
That's a good primer on geocaching.
Sure.
It is not.
It is really fun, and they're usually placed in very inconspicuous places so that you can't actually see them unless you're actually looking for them. Inside the tubes, there is a piece of paper that you write your name down and your address, and or your email address, and then a little bit about yourself, and it's on waterproof paper, so it's able to withstand any kind of weather being outdoors. And then also what people put in there are little trinkets, and what we're going to put inside of ours are they're bicycle keychains. They're just really small. They say calvertcity.com on them, and so when people find it, you open it up and you pull a keychain out. And then, periodically, we'll go check it and make sure that they are refilled. But they're very inconspicuous. You can't normally see them, if you're just walking by. Usually they're kind of hidden. You have to kind of know what you're looking for. Other things that I've got on the list for the Calvert 150. Awesome stuff going on. Our music list is booked. We're filled up with that. I have been blown away with how many photos that I have received and documents, old newspapers. It's unbelievable. My office is overflowing with historic documents, and that excites me. Also, I emailed to you guys the document that Bobby Faust has been working on. And it needs another set of eyes outside of myself. It is a little bit long. I think it's 32 pages, but it's 16 fonts. So if you knock it down, it's about 17 pages. It took me a couple hours to read. And it's really a great read about the history of Calvert, but it's important for you guys to read over it and make sure that the information that is in there is accurate. I've said this once, but you cannot depend on me to make sure that this is accurate, just me. So I need everyone's help on this. You can go on and read it and just email me back of any changes that you might see or anything that we might have missed. Bobby and I have sat down and talked about this quite a bit. And, she's really done a great job on getting everything together. I could not do this without her, that's for sure. Another thing that we've added is the golf scramble, and that's good to go. It's called Beards and Bonnets. That's what it was called in 1971, so bringing it back, but we're going to change it up a little bit. They're going to play 9 holes at Kentucky Dam Village and 9 holes at Calvert City Country Club. They will receive a golf towel for participating in both, and hopefully that will be a good turnout. That will be that same weekend for the 150. As far as sponsorships, we have received $24,800 in sponsorships so far. And I think that's pretty good. We're still a couple months out, and hopefully we will have a few more entries over the next month or so. They are Lubrizol, Good Spirits, Wine and Tobacco, Custom Automotive, Calvert Cafe, Arkema, David Taylor Chrysler, Evonik, Shoporama, TVA, and Westlake. The last thing that I have to talk about is the strategic plan. I sent you guys an email today about it, and this is really something we need to knock out. We need to decide what date we can meet and have our last workshop so that we can get a strategic plan together. It's crucial. If we don't know what we're going to do in the next 7 years, then it's really going to make our jobs hard. Having a strategic plan, our committees depend on it so that they can look at it and see this is what the council wants us to do, and this is how we're going to move forward over the next 7 years. I sent you guys an email that has the last workshop information. So if you could go over that and write 1 through 10, 1 being the least important, 10 being the most important out of those documents, so that when we meet as a workshop, you guys are familiar with what we've discussed, and you can say what's important to you as a council member. So then we can decide what our top 10 things are that we need to accomplish in these 7 years. I don't know the best way to pick out a date, but we can, John's good at that. So I guess if he wants to send out a text and find out when a good date is, then we'll do that. But it really needs to be now in April.
On the strategic plan, what's the timeline here?
Well, I mean, we're super behind because I think that, and I understand why. I mean, with the changes and whatnot, it's kind of put us behind, but we had started this in January. So we really need to pick back up and get this second workshop in. The first workshop, we met and we talked about things that we wanted to see and things that we didn't accomplish in our last strategic plan. So this last workshop will be deciding what the council sees the city focusing on over the next 7 years. It makes my job easier. It makes John's job easier, giving us direction as to where our commissions and our boards need to go over the next 7 years. And, us too. So anyway, I don't know if you want to pick a date right now, we can, or I can work with John and we can figure out a date.
Let's you guys figure out a day and we'll try to circulate it. And these are always the hardest things for us to do. Now, Blair, didn't we have like a contractor help guide us through a portion of this work?
Yeah, and that's what we're waiting on. Rebecca Brown, she's with Chastain and Associates. I think she's emailed me every week. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? And you know, I'm ready, and I want you guys to be ready too, because this is exciting. And Rebecca, she's pretty awesome. She's the one that put together the worksheet the document that I sent you guys to read over, and just make sure at the workshop that you go through and you rank those projects. 1 being the least, 10 being the most important, so that when we have our workshop, it makes it so much easier to just roll through it. That's all I've got. Thanks.
Is the 28th available for everybody? It's Wednesday, the 28th of April.
I'm okay.
You're good? Okay.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, we'll see if we can do that in person or not to Zoom. All right. So the 28th is not good?
I don't have a clue.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna go for 28th and we're gonna put out John's, or one of you two gonna put out a note and everybody's gonna confirm back. And I think it's important everybody get there.
The other thing too, and John just reminded me of it, May 8th will be our spring cleanup day, where if you're a Calvert City resident, you could come in and bring all of those things that you've been hiding in your garage for the last year.
We'll have shredder, tires, hazardous chemicals or hazardous household waste. There will be a bulk. We're working to get, I haven't got a confirmation, but I'm working to get prescription drug recovery by one of the departments, or by the sheriff's department, I guess. And then also the hard drive wipe by SmartPath. And I think that they've committed as well. So the only one I'm still waiting on right now is the sheriff's department.
Okay, so that's gonna be May 8th at
8 to 12, 8 in the morning to 12 noon.
location is gonna be the baseball parking lot.
That is correct. Main parking lot in Doctor's Park. Fire department is graciously accepted to help us with traffic. And any of you all that want to come, will take that help too.
I'm always astonished when we do those, we still get tires. It just blows me away that people still have tires. I mean, vehicle tires, not just junk tires off trailers and stuff, but there's still vehicle tires.
Now, we do limit the number of tires we'll take, and we take it from residents only, not from businesses.
Okay.
And then you get eight tires per household.
Okay. It's always a treat. So something always comes out of the woodwork on those things. But it's good work, John. Appreciate you coordinating that. That was on the director's report. We got a project report to get through, John.
Yes, sir. We've actually changed or placed the new utility billing drop box. If you'll notice now, it is no longer at the end of the ramp. It's been placed beside the road over on the east side as you're going down to the police department.
Get a thumbs up on that one.
I'm sorry?
Getting a thumbs up from a member of the press on that one.
Yeah. That we've had for a while. We just haven't had a chance to get it in there. We're working on the right now, recalking taking the old grout out, putting in a new caulk in on the splash pad to get it ready for spring. Mowing again has begun. The cemetery has been mowed. I think this is its third mowing. And the gentleman that got the cemetery is the same gentleman that did it last year and did a very nice job. The airport, since Hanson is not here, of course, we've been selling fuel. We've sold a little better than 300 gallons of 100 low lead, which is the avgas. We showed 6 gallons of Jet A, but not at this moment. I think that was all through the tests. That's all the jet fuel we've sold at this point. The hangars are looking good. They should have started working on the ground work for the actual paving. They're doing that over the next 2 weeks. They'll be getting the paving in. So if everything goes well and they can finish it in time, it looks like that by the 1st of May, we may actually have 16 hangars to fill. And I think we've pretty well done that already.
What you talked about the swing set, Old Park?
No, that was also on other business, but I'll do that now if you want me to. We removed the old swing set in Old Park because it was unsafe and had been marked off for people not to use it. When we did remove it, we had intended originally to put in the volleyball set that we had purchased some years back and put it in that location. But we got a lot of kickback from a lot of the mothers who really enjoy having the playground there. So being responsive as we are, we pulled the volleyball and are looking now at a structure to go in to replace the one that was removed. Now, as that is not in our budget, not something we had planned on doing, we do have money that was set aside for another project that I don't know that we're going to have time to get to. We had $25,000 in the bicycle and walking trail that was going to be cut over here behind the convalescent center. And my thought was that we might utilize those funds this year and then put that money back in for next year. And one of the reasons for that is number one, get the playground in there quick, but also we're looking at increases in cost of materials for these playground structures after May 1st. So that's another reason to want to move ahead and get the playground structure now before the prices go up. They're talking 6% increase. So if we can get one purchased, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Have this completed by May 1st?
No, purchased by May 1st, not actually installed by May 1st, but actually purchased. That way we lock a price in and don't get it caught in that higher 6% increase on them. So
I asked that about when it will be installed because I have elementary schools that are texting me. We've got some text, some email. Sharp Elementary, Benton Elementary, and Central, they're asking about Old Park. And they're asking if we're going to put something in.
I won't know for sure until after I've gotten back and been able to talk to the individual about the set and that is chosen and how long the delivery, the time is on that. But I'm going to have them do the install as opposed to our crews. That way they will install it at delivery rather than waiting for us to be able to install it when we've got the time.
Okay, so he's, I guess, informing us that the old play set was decrepit and needed to be taken down, and we had plans for it. I don't know where we are on the Parks Board recommendation here, but you basically, what are you looking for here, John? That's in informational purposes that we're going to.
Well, actually, I want to make sure that they're okay with me taking and utilizing that money that was originally for the walking trail to move that to this at this point in time, and then maybe putting that back in next year's budget.
This was a single track bike trail kind of behind the convalescent center.
That's correct. We were going to do the work on it as well, but I'm thinking we're not going to have the time to get that in. And if we do, and then we'll pay a higher price for the swing, the playground structure.
So that
They
single-
seem to be more interest in the playground structure at this moment than the biking and hiking trail over in that woods behind the convalescent center.
You guys generally on board with that?
I feel like our mothers have spoken.
Yes.
That is a prime birthday.
Yes, they have.
Well, you know, we've got the pavilion, we got the new pavilion, and I think that that's.
Yes.
And Blair, I didn't mean to leave you out of that and get you signed or blindside you with it, but just to let you know that we do want to put that back in the budget for next year if they allow this. Sorry if I caught you off guard.
No way. Hey, I want to keep our mamas happy.
Thank you for working on that.
Okay. We got any more project reports, John?
That should handle the projects, I think, at the moment. We're just, right now, we're going around getting this project and that project, getting a lot of stuff that have been sitting back on the side burners, getting them caught up right now before we jump off into the major parts of summer.
I do got one question. Where do we stand on the bike trail, cart trail expansion going on out to 62?
The Long Valley Road
Long Valley
connector
Road.
between Fifth Avenue and Highway 62.
We're working on the right-of-way language right now, I think. Isn't that right, Greg? For the multi-use trail? You're muted.
We always wanted that power.
Sorry. What, the language?
Yeah, it's something with the right-of-way. It sent you something on the right-of-way easements or whatever. I know that the right-of-ways are being worked on by the state, but they sent some language to you. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't, no.
Hang on a minute.
Well, like, who's controlling the speed on how fast we go with this?
The federal government.
That makes me feel better, John.
Yeah.
I know it makes me feel just all warm and fuzzy too, but that's their money.
Right. So this, if we remember, the council had expressed clearly that we wanted to not be seen as the slacking link on connecting those two, but we can't turn our back. How much is the amount of that grant for? Remind us, John.
About 450.
I thought it was 540,000.
540. So anyway, that's a substantial amount of money. And so we're caught in this web. We don't like it. Those who know, I bike a little bit and I was fine on running up and down Lone Valley personally, but I have been told from stakeholders that they are going to be much more use when we get this thing done. So whatever we can do to facilitate it, let's please do it.
Yeah, I thought it was released. Why did I think that?
It has, it
was
moved to a
released?
step. It moved to a step of releasing the funds and then
I
it's,
was just asking,
no, I'm glad you asked it. I wanted to ask.
Young
Well,
people
we
first.
painted as a stopgap, but we need to.
Yeah. So, we'll get some more. Yeah. But I don't,
We're in the right-of-way acquisition phase. To summarize real quickly, that's where we're at right now, is at the right-of-way acquisition phase. Do I expect to see construction this year? No. I hate to say that, but I don't.
but don't apologize for asking because, yeah.
But I do think that it's moving, it's actually moving forward. It's just moving at not our pace. Is that the best way to say that?
One of the lighter ways I know.
I mean, if we step out and move ahead of their schedule, then they don't pay. We take it out of pocket.
Very good. Are we ready for an airport update? I haven't seen Hanson on here.
I think
Well, I gave that to you because they weren't here. About the hangars and the overlay is done. Of course, the fuel's there. The only thing really left at this point is that. So, I mean, I expect the hangars to be, like I said, done. If things hold and the weather holds, we may, like I said, we may be opening up to around May 1st for people to place planes and hangars.
That's a big milestone. That's a big milestone. And we got some potential to do some recognition on that. So we'll be in touch. The airport board is aware of the idea that, you know, that there's going to be ongoing work out there for quite a while, but this is kind of the milestone. So we'll see what we can come up with for some recognition on that. So look forward to some plans on that. The report on American Rescue Plan Act, I mean, that's a big deal. It's been in the press. I have to admit that I don't know as much about it as what I had intended to know at this time, but it's a golden opportunity. Now, John Blair sent us.
I've got some bullet points. I can send you all out some information I have as well, but the city of Calvert City will receive, and now it varies because I've heard everything from $400,000 over the next 2 years to $700,000 over the next 2 years. So at one point I was sure, now I don't know for sure, but it will get it in 2 payments. I do know that. The first payment will be on or about May the 11th of this year. The second payment will be no earlier than 12 months following that date or after the first payment. Again, it's the total being somewhere between 400 and 700,000. We will receive, the way I understand it, 50% of that this year and then 50% next year. You can use it for responding to cost of your COVID-19 and its impact and negative impacts. You can use it to assist households, small businesses, nonprofits, industries such as tourism, travel, and as hospitality to take care of workers, essential workers through the COVID-19. Government service to extend reduction in revenue, such as loss of revenues to local governments due to the COVID-19 as it relates to reduction in revenues collected. This cannot be used to directly or indirectly offset a reduction in the net tax revenue resulting from changes in the law. Okay, that has to be directly from COVID related reductions. You can make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. Although with all the broadband we've got here, I don't know why that would be essential, but the water and sewer, that's the key right there. And that's necessary investments in infrastructure projects for them. There are other sources of money out there besides what the city is getting. There will be sources that we actually can access ourselves. Monies for airport relief, for community development, for EPA grants, small business and nonprofit support is available. And this is not just loans. This is actually grants that individuals and small businesses can apply for. Restaurant revitalization is a big one. They put $228.6 billion in that one. Economic adjustment assistance, that works out for, anyway, there's a bunch of other things that go along with that. And there's so many of them, we'll be here for another half hour to an hour going through everything. If you've got a question about this, I'll be glad to give you some information. And I'll also send you a bullet that I received that gives you an overall breakdown of that as well. Okay.
So we've got a lot to learn, about what council has to do and the executive branch has to do as far as making recommendations to council to properly utilize those funds to the best of us. And to me, like I said, I want to be further along in my understanding of this, and I'm not. So we've got
KLC should be.
KLC is working on it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I met with JD Good Friday. Actually, that was pretty big on his. He hadn't quite recovered from his legislation session yet, so he was kind of crazy. But he came by to wish me luck and wish us luck. And the topic, he says, we can look forward to getting some more information out of KLC on that team. But it's a pretty good meeting overall. So just wanted to put that down here as a board item that we need to figure out what that means to, we're getting ready to get into the budgeting process, of course, and then how we're gonna, set that aside and stuff. So, we got some pretty good news on most of the hands on our audit and as far as positions go, and the continuing struggle with our Kentucky pension plan, which we're pretty much powerless to impact, but it's always that heavy hammer out there, and then moving forward into the budgeting, this thing's building into it. So with that, John, you got something else to add on the American Rescue Plan?
Additional funding for community development for transportation systems and infrastructure available. They've got $100 million for states. And this is going through capital projects directly enabling work, education, health, monitoring, and other infrastructures. Again, there's more money other than that, just that money that we're going to receive straight out for water and sewer infrastructure or other items of that nature that we might want to look at in seeking. Individuals in the community, there's money out there for them with their emergency rental assistance and other housing vouchers. There's other things that are available to them directly as well. So it's a big program. There's a lot available. People need to really get out there and look at it. We'll try to get some points out so we can help people. If they call, that we can maybe direct them and maybe find a place for them to go to get that assistance.
All right. Moving forward, we're almost there to number 7. But before we do it, traditionally, I'm going to ask Nita first because she had one we're not going to forget. She had a question. We haven't asked it yet.
Okay, if that was about, somebody asked me about spraying, if we were gonna do any spraying.
Skeeters.
Skeeters and pigs.
So we've relied on the county to do mosquito spraying in the most recent past. So we can look into that, John.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Question is, what's Calvert City's plans for mosquito spraying this year?
These plans for what?
Mosquitoes.
Oh, mosquito spraying. Agriculture does that automatically, but we'll send them just like we do every year, areas that we request, and we'll see. Unless things have changed, that's the way it's been in the past. Hopefully we'll have a good rapport with the folks over there in the agriculture center to get that moving. So Brad's built a good rapport, and in over the years, I mean, they just worked with us. We just have to provide them with the mapping.
Right.
We give them a map of the city and say, here, spray.
We can get a report back to them.
All these trees, nice tree.
Well, and there's always been like a number you could call, I guess from the health department, that you could call and get specific areas like, but I don't know how to get that number again.
Well, that's actually the agriculture department because they're the one that do the spraying, and that's who we contact directly.
But for individuals.
Mosquito spraying, they do that. The health department doesn't itself. Now they may help facilitate it, but it's actually the agriculture department that does the spraying.
I just wonder if there's any way we could get the number and get that out there to residents where they could call. I've called before, I just don't have the number, and they would say.
If we can find you one.
Okay, thanks.
Let's see if we can find one.
Yeah.
Okay. Nate, got anything else?
Nothing.
Okay. No, sir. No, Kevin?
Only thing I've got is, I've had some questions. Is there any plans or we had any studies on where we're gonna build, they're building a new truck stop for a traffic light in that area? I'm not a traffic light person, but I've been asked several times. I know.
It's a bit state highway. Now, we
Double the amount of trucks we come through.
Yeah.
And that's
Come in-
dangerous though.
Come in and out of there.
I'll look into that.
That's all, I mean, that's really all I got. I'm curious every time I go through there myself.
They can have the one at McDonald's, just put it down there.
When the question was, John, is there been any talk about putting a traffic signal down amongst the truck stops that you're aware of on Highway 62 from the highway department?
Talking about Speedway?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually Speedway's paying for it. That was part of their plan. They're actually widening Truck Plaza Lane where it comes into 62 to have a right and left turn lane. Where you come out from Speedway, it'll turn right or left. There'll be 2 lanes for that. There's actually a a segment. There'll be an 8-foot stretch here for pedestrians to have a rest stop, or not really a rest stop, but a free from the traffic, where they've got a safety island between the incoming and the outgoing traffic, so they can negotiate it properly. But there will be a stoplight there when it's completed. It's supposed to be.
As far as a direct answer to a council question, that is a very good response.
He was slow rolling.
Yeah.
All right.
Ding, ding, ding.
We got another
I'm
one? You want to
done.
go for 2?
That's good.
All right, Chris, you got something? All right, Ralph.
I wonder if it kind of ties in with Earth Day a little bit. Several years ago, John, I know will remember this, we had a litter pickup day, and I wondered if that might not be a good thing to do prior to our celebration. There's plenty of debris along the streets.
So, actual Earth Day, what day is actual Earth
It's
Day?
the 8th.
The
I
8th?
Too soon to organize it.
So
But sometime prior to the
It's 24th.
celebration, just to kind of get.
April 24th, Earth Day.
I thought it was the 8th.
That's a cleanup day,
The cleanup day is May the 8th.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah, I think.
Earth Day is April 22nd.
That's correct.
I mean, that's too soon.
all right, Earth Day is 22nd. So,
Well, how did it go? What, did you just encourage people to get out? Or did you
No,
organize
it was
parties?
I don't know who organized it, but there were shirts prepared that say the green team. I have them. John and the street department had trucks out, but there were volunteers that were actually picking up.
Yes, I remember that, and just making certain piles, and they would give us big trash bags, and yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we might think of doing it a little bit later on. I know the weather will be warmer, but closer to the
Yeah.
sesquicentennial.
That's kind of what I was.
The big idea.
well, we want to be a big party and expect some visitors, so having the place looking good is
Yeah.
is the utmost
That's
bonus.
key.
And it's part of being good. So Blair's got her mute on, and I'm sure she's looking for more stuff to do in
Yeah.
part of assessment and planning. But we'll hear your suggestions and see what we can come up with, right? Okay.
And I'll be happy to plan that. You just, if you have a certain day in mind, we'll get it together. I know our guys do a really good job of picking up trash on our city streets. But sometimes, 95 and other places that they can't get to, they definitely do need some help.
So, close
62.
to the 4th of July, when we're expecting the guests, would probably be a great way to do it. So, I know a company picks up Main Street.
But we may not want it to be too hot, that
Might
people don't want to volunteer.
That's true.
But I was thinking, like in June, sometimes it's not real bad, and that would maybe not, got a month there, but maybe it would be too
Yeah.
bad.
I think
We could do it
early
like 8
June
o'clock in
would
the
probably
morning.
be ideal.
On a Saturday, something.
Are we doing the 5K run, Blair, this year?
We moved that to Christmas time because
Okay.
it's too hot in July.
Well, the only reason I said that, well, we did the 5K, generally the week before the actual 4th of July for celebration. I was just trying to verify. We have a sweeper come in and do the streets along 5th Avenue and down in anywhere we got curbing, we use that sweeper. And I was going to try to bring it in a couple of weeks ahead of schedule, so we didn't have people out there, running on gravel or anything like that.
Yeah, we don't have anything planned, but there will be a lot of traffic on our sidewalks. So I think that's a good idea anyway.
Well, this was actually for the streets, but we'll work it in there. We'll get it. We're going to run it anyway. I just wanted to see if I need to coordinate it where it was closer to some sort of event, parade or anything on the 4th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then we'll set it up no more than 2 weeks in advance, or do our best to set it up no more than 2 weeks in advance.
That sounds good. Does June 12th sound good for everyone for a spring cleanup?
Great.
June 12th.
Okay.
I've got a priority about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
12-hour shutdown
Too
days.
bad.
You know, you could do 12 and do another 4, that's 16. So yeah, I'm sure you'll be enthused. Okay, so Tanara.
I don't have anything other than it's great to see half of your faces.
It is nice. All right, with that, I appreciate everybody coming in person. And I do want to again reemphasize that, you know, even though we appear that we're shut down, I've seen in my increased travels in the immediate city hall area, I've seen a lot of customers, a lot of citizens being taken care of. There's been, you know, meetings of solicitation for potential businesses. I mean, the city is open, the door just happens to be locked. It's a call on the phone. And you know what? I've seen them respond to people knocking on the door too. So, you know, we're open for business. We're being responsive. Really, you know, nobody should be milling around just for the sake of milling around anyway, but hopefully we'll get to where we're going. And, you know, the push to, and, you know, Governor Beshear is trying to be very positive on the vaccination efforts and going, you know, looking forward, publicly making statements. He's looking forward to relaxing, eliminating some of the restrictions that we have. So, you know, Kentucky, we're going to continue to work that way. And we will respond at City Hall and move forward in that. And business is going on. Kentucky Dam has reestablished this month. They have food service in-house out there. And that's where JD wanted to meet for breakfast. I said, we're going there. So Scott fed us a great breakfast. So that's still available. There's guests up there. So things are coming alive, folks, and not any too soon. So we're going to throw a great birthday party. Blair's got this all done, and we'll be making sure we're being totally compliant with all the directives as they come out as we move forward. And I appreciate everybody's help and on some, you know, not issues, but I mean, we'll get progress done. So thank you. And with that, I'll take a motion.
Go ahead.
Make a motion.
Motion. Anybody you want. So who's gonna make the motion? Nina made the motion
I say.
and Kevin seconded for adjournment. And, okay, we're going.
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah,